She froze when the door creaked open at midnight. Her swollen belly shifted painfully, but she still rose to greet him. Shu dropped his shoes carelessly on the floor, his voice sharp. "So you couldn't even cook my dinner?" Her lips trembled. She had spent the whole day fighting back contractions, too weak to stand for long, but still managed to wash his shirts. Now, as sweat beaded on her forehead, he accused her of laziness. She whispered, "Shu, I think the baby is coming." But his reply sliced through her hope. Baby or not, what kind of wife leaves her husband hungry? The neighbors heard the shouting. The house lights flickered. A storm was rising, and with it, the truth of Shu's heart would soon be revealed. Because this night was not about hunger or chores. It was about pride, selfishness, and the price of a man's arrogance. And that's where her story truly began. Before we dive deeper, don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss another powerful story. Yetund balanced the heavy pot with both hands, her swollen belly pressing against the wooden counter as she strained to lift it. The aroma of pepper soup filled the small house, but her body was trembling, her back aching from hours of standing. She was 9 months pregnant, yet still determined to serve. Shu, her husband, lounged in the parlor, one leg crossed over the other, his eyes fixed on his phone. He didn't glance up when she entered with the steaming bowl. She placed it gently on the table before him. "Here is your food, Shu," she said softly, wiping the sweat from her brow. He sniffed, frowned, and pushed the bowl away. "Too much pepper. You know I don't like it this way. How many times will I correct you?" Her heart sank. She had used the same recipe she always did, the very one he once praised. Still, she forced a small smile. "I will adjust it next time." "Next time?" he snapped. "So tonight I should go hungry?" The words stung, but she swallowed her pain. She thought of her mother's warning. Marriage is not only about love, it is about endurance. So she kept silent, though the baby inside her shifted, as if reminding her that endurance had limits. All day, she had been folding his clothes, scrubbing the floor, and ironing his shirts, pausing only when a wave of sharp pain bent her double. Shu had seen her wince, but he only grunted, reminding her to iron the collars properly. To him, a shirt crease mattered more than her discomfort. Neighbors often whispered when they passed by. They saw Yetund sweeping the yard in the hot sun, belly round and feet swollen, while Shu sat with his friends under the mango tree, boasting about respect and manhood. He told them, a real wife must serve her husband, no matter her condition. His friends nodded, though their eyes betrayed unease. They respected his wealth, but not his words. One evening, Mama Yetund stopped by. She carried a basket of vegetables, her face lined with worry. "My daughter, you are too heavy with child to be working like this. Let Shu help." Shu overheard and scoffed loudly. "Help? A man is not a woman. She knows her duties. If she cannot manage, then she is not ready to be a wife." Mama Yetund's eyes flashed. "Shu, pride is like fire. If you don't quench it, it will burn everything you love." But Shu only waved her off. To him, his authority was a crown, and bending even an inch would mean losing it. That night, Yetund lay awake beside him, her hands on her belly, whispering to her unborn child, "Be strong, little one. Your father will love you differently when you arrive. Maybe then his heart will soften." She wanted to believe that. She had to. Her body, however, was already whispering a different truth. Every step grew heavier, every chore more unbearable. Still, she rose each morning before sunrise to prepare his breakfast. Shu ate silently, never once asking if she had slept, never noticing her shaking hands as she poured his tea. When she tried to rest one afternoon, Shu returned early from work. He found her lying down and barked. "So this is what you do when I'm not here? Sleeping instead of cleaning? I should have known." She sat up quickly, hiding the pain twisting her insides. "I was only—" "Enough!" He cut her off. "Respect means service. If you cannot serve, you disrespect me." Tears welled in her eyes, but she blinked them back. The world had told her a woman's tears solved nothing. She whispered only to herself, "How long can I endure this?" The baby kicked again, stronger this time, as if answering. And though Shu saw her clutch her belly, he only muttered, "When will you finally give birth so I can have peace in this house?" That night, as rain tapped against the roof and thunder rolled in the distance, Yetund felt the first deep contraction. She gasped softly, biting her lips so Shu would not hear. She knew what he would say. She knew he would think first of his comfort, not her need. Still, she prayed silently for strength, because tomorrow would test her more than all the days before. The rain had stopped by morning, leaving the air heavy and damp. Yetund rose slowly from the bed, clutching her belly. Each step sent waves of pain through her hips, sharper now, closer together. She leaned against the wall, breathing hard. Shu was already dressed, adjusting his tie in front of the mirror. "Where's my shirt from yesterday? It isn't ironed properly," he muttered, frowning at his reflection. Yetund's voice shook. "Shu, I think it's time. The baby is coming." He turned, eyes narrowing. "What are you saying? Can't you see I need to go to work? I need to go to the hospital. Please, help me," she whispered, holding her swollen stomach as another contraction seized her. Instead of moving toward her, Shu sighed dramatically. "So you couldn't even wash my clothes, and now you want me to carry you to the hospital? What kind of wife are you?" Her breath hitched. "Shu, please. This is not about clothes." But he shook his head, grabbing his jacket. "No food, no clean shirts, and now drama. You women think a man is your servant. Let your mother or your neighbors carry you, if it's that serious. I'm not leaving my house like this." She stared at him in disbelief, pain mixing with heartbreak. The man who once promised to protect her, who held her hand beneath the stars when they first met, was now turning away in her most desperate hour. As if summoned by fate, Mama Yetund entered just then. She had sensed something wrong the night before and returned early. She saw her daughter hunched over in pain, sweat dripping down her face. She dropped her basket with a thud. "Shu, what is this? Why are you still here? Why haven't you taken her to the hospital?" Shu waved dismissively. "Mama, don't start. She has neglected her duties. She thinks pregnancy is an excuse to leave me hungry." Mama Yetund's face hardened. "You value your stomach more than your wife's life? God will judge you, Shu." Neighbors gathered outside, hearing the raised voices. A young man named Bode stepped forward. "Mama, let's take her now. We can't waste time." Shu crossed his arms. "Do as you please. I will not be shamed into running around like a weak man." With shaking hands, Yetund was lifted by two women from the neighborhood. Mama Yetund followed closely, her lips moving in prayer. Shu stood in the doorway, unmoved, as if their desperation was a petty quarrel. At the hospital, nurses rushed Yetund onto a bed. One of them gasped when she heard the story. "He left her at home like that? With contractions minutes apart." Another shook her head. "What kind of husband abandons his wife at the edge of life and death?" Yetund barely heard them. The world blurred around her as she gripped the sheets, pushing through the storm of pain. Mama Yetund held her hand tightly, whispering encouragement, tears streaming down her face. "You will live, my child. You will see your baby. You will not die in this man's pride." Hours passed. With sweat pouring down her face, Yetund screamed and pushed. And then, at last, a cry filled the room. A strong, healthy baby boy, red-faced and loud, was placed in her arms. She wept softly, kissing his forehead. "My son, welcome. May your life never know the pride that nearly destroyed us." Mama Yetund smiled through her tears, though sorrow lingered. "Your father should be here to hold you, little one." But he chose his anger instead. Back at the compound, word spread quickly. Neighbors shook their heads, disgusted. Women gathered in small groups, whispering, "Did you hear? Shu refused to take her to the hospital because of food and shirts." Men shook their heads too, muttering, "That one has disgraced us all. No real man behaves like that." Shu, however, sat on his veranda, chewing roasted corn as though nothing had happened. When one of his friends asked if it was true, Shu smirked. Let them talk. A man must stand his ground. But behind his bravado, cracks were beginning to show. For while he claimed not to care, he could feel the stares. He could hear the whispers. And he did not yet know how deeply this night had changed everything. The days that followed were filled with murmurs, louder than the harmattan winds. In the market, women who once greeted Shu with smiles now turned their backs. Some even laughed openly when he passed, their words sharp as knives. That's the man who values shirts more than his wife's life, they whispered. Children sang rhymes in the street, mocking him without fear. Even men who used to gather at his table avoided him now. To them, Shu was no longer a man but a cautionary tale. At first, Shu held his head high. He boasted to anyone who dared mention it. Respect must be earned. If I let her slack once, she will slack forever. But at night, when the house grew quiet, he heard the echo of his own voice. Respect. Respect. The word that once sounded like power now rang hollow, empty in the shadows of his empty bed. Yetund remained in her mother's house after the birth. She was recovering slowly, surrounded by neighbors who brought food and care. Mama Yetund never left her side, bathing the baby and humming old lullabies. Each evening, Yetund cradled her son, tears falling silently as she thought of the man missing from their little circle. She had not forbidden Shu from visiting, but he had not come. Pride chained his feet. On the seventh day, Mama Yetund looked her daughter in the eye. My child, a man who abandons you at the door of death does not deserve your tears. Focus on your son. Yetund nodded, though her heart twisted. She still longed for the husband she once knew. The Shu who wrote her love letters, who promised to build a future of laughter and warmth. She wondered if that man was gone forever. The turning point came unexpectedly. One afternoon, Shu entered the compound, his shoulders slouched. The neighbors froze, watching. He carried no pride in his steps, only shame. He stood before Mama Yetund, cleared his throat and said softly, Mama, I have come to beg. The old woman crossed her arms. Beg? Shu, words are wind. Actions are proof. What can you give that will heal what you broke? His voice cracked. I was blinded by foolishness. I thought manhood was control. I see now it is protection. I left my wife to suffer. I left my son to be born without me. I am ashamed. The baby cried from inside the room, and Shu flinched, the sound piercing him. He whispered, Please, Mama, allow me to make it right. Mama Yetund's eyes softened slightly, but her tone remained firm. If you want forgiveness, you must earn it. Go home and wash those clothes you value so much. Sweep your own compound. Serve your wife, not with words, but with hands. The neighbors murmured, surprised. Would he obey? Shu bowed his head. Yes, Mama. The next day, whispers spread again, but this time they carried wonder. Shu was seen at dawn, scrubbing the floor. He fetched water from the well. He even went to the market, bargaining clumsily for vegetables while women giggled behind their stalls. He cooked poorly at first, burning the stew until the smoke chased him outside. But he kept trying. When Yetund returned with the baby weeks later, she found the compound swept, her laundry folded neatly. Shu knelt before her, tears streaming down his face. Yetund, I wronged you more than words can measure. I don't ask for your heart back today. I only ask for a chance to prove that I can change. She looked at him, torn between anger and hope. Mama Yetund placed a hand on her daughter's shoulder. Forgive does not mean forget, my child. But sometimes, forgiveness is the seed that grows into change. Slowly, Yetund extended her hand. Shu clasped it tightly, as though it was the last rope keeping him from drowning. And in that moment, though wounds remained, a fragile bridge was built. From that day, Shu continued his quiet penance. He carried his son proudly, not as a trophy but as a responsibility. Neighbors who once mocked him began to nod again, this time not out of fear but respect earned through humility. Shu no longer boasted of manhood. Instead, he spoke softly of service, of care, of love. And in the evenings, when Yetund rocked their child to sleep, she allowed herself to smile again. Because though her husband had failed her once in her darkest hour, he was now learning that true strength was not in pride, but in humility. In the end, Shu's story reminds us that pride can destroy what love builds, but humility can mend broken walls. A husband's duty is not measured in control, but in kindness, patience, and service. And a wife's strength is not only in endurance but in the courage to demand respect. For marriage is not a battlefield of pride, but a garden of compassion that must be watered daily. If this story touched you, like this video, subscribe to King's Folklore, and share your thoughts in the comments below. Your voice matters,